is the ASO scored? So now that we understand how the ASO was developed and validated, let's look deeper in the tool and how it works. The first component of the tool we will look at is the scoring mechanism. This is the ASO scoring mechanism. The ASO scoring mechanism is the way that we quantify the level of vulnerability of a survivor. There are three types of scores which you will give when completing the ASO. The first type of score which is given is the subdomain score. When completing the ASO, you will give a subdomain score from 1 to 4. Each score corresponds to a level of vulnerability. A score of 1 means the survivor is highly vulnerable in that subdomain. A score of 2 means the survivor is vulnerable in that subdomain. A score of 3 means the survivor is stable in that subdomain. A score of 4 means the survivor is highly stable in that subdomain. The second type of score which is given in the domain score. The domain score is calculated based on an average of all subdomain scores. It's important to note that every domain has a different amount of subdomains. Some have 3, some have 4 or 5 subdomains. So you should be careful to always divide the subdomain score by the total number of subdomains. The third type of score which is given is the overall score. The overall score is an average of all the domain scores. This is calculated by adding each domain score and dividing it by the total number of domains, which is 6. To summarize, subdomain scoring, each subdomain is scored by the assessor using professional judgment on a vulnerability scale of 1 to 4, with 1 as the highest level of vulnerability and 4 as the lowest level of vulnerability. The domain scoring, each domain is calculated by averaging the subdomain scores. A domain score of 3 or above is considered stable, reflecting that a survivor has the skills and or resources to be at low vulnerability to re-victimization. The overall score, the score is calculated by averaging the domain scores. According to IJM standards, an overall score of 3 or above means that the survivor is restored and functioning satisfactorily at a low risk of re-victimization. The overarching guidance for scoring the ASO. 1 is professional judgment. Professional judgment is a process of gathering and considering critical information, reflecting and consulting with others, like supervision, in order to make strong decisions and document key points in the notes section of the ASO tool to communicate the rationale for decisions. 2 is the average functioning versus snapshot. Assessors should consider the survivor's average functioning and circumstances over the last 30 days, rather than solely how the individual is doing on one particular day. 3. Developmentally appropriate behavior. All ratings in the ASO should be made in the context of what would be considered developmentally appropriate behavior regarding age and ability. Scoring and temporary shelters. Assessors should consider the survivor's care plan goals when assessing survivors who are living in temporary shelter. For example, a survivor currently living in a shelter who plans to transition to the community should be assessed based on what his or her circumstances will be in the community where he or she plans to go. Scoring when information is absent or unclear. Assessors should seek as much information as possible when rating each subdomain. And if information is missing or unclear, the assessor should score conservatively lower than higher. Marking the survivor with a score of 2 or lower indicates that the survivor remains vulnerable in that subdomain.